Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to talk about the Earth and what it's going to be like during the millennium, and just interesting things that have been said about the changes that are going to take place. Have an article to go over that's interesting that may or may not apply to the millennium. It was sent to me by somebody that wants to remain anonymous, where they sent me this email with a link to an article, a couple scriptures to read, and the person was worried about these scriptures, hoping that they aren't literal because they would miss, mountains and valleys. So they weren't sure if these scriptures were literal or not. And, I can understand that. I myself love mountains and valleys, even though I live in Kansas where those things virtually don't exist. But we're going to look at it. Okay, there's a lot of things to think about. So first, let's read the two scriptures that Anonymous sent. The first one is D&C 133, verse 24. "In the land of Jerusalem and the land of Zion shall be turned back into their own place, and the earth shall be like it was in the days before it was divided." So we all know, or hopefully we all know, that essentially all the land masses are going to come together, and it doesn't seem that there's going to be any more islands either. How that's going to happen, I don't know. Here's Zion over here in the Americas, and then here's Jerusalem over here in the Middle East. And in some kind of way, all the land masses are going to come together. I would assume, and it is an assumption, that they would come together like right here, that these continents would maybe move eastward, these ones would move westward, and who knows how it would work out. But that's kind of what I picture. Okay. Now, the second scripture is Isaiah 40, verse 4. "Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain." Now, even though I would miss mountains and valleys, I also like plains. I would not mind if everything was nice and flat and wide and open. There is something that's nice about that, and that's something that I'm currently enjoying in Kansas. I thought that I'd be really sad with no mountains, but I'm not. I do kind of miss them, but there's something to enjoy when it comes to open areas. It's nice. But anyway, let's not forget this. I actually covered this in a recent video where we covered this chapter in the Institute Student Manual, The Last Days in the Millennium, Isaiah chapters 55 to 66. And we came across this verse in Isaiah. Isaiah 65, verse 17. "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind." So you have to wonder about that. Maybe we don't have a very clear idea of exactly what things are going to be like, and especially when compared to how they are now. In the Institute Manual, it says, Isaiah 65:17 through 25 refers to the millennium. People living then will have no desire for things to be as they once were. The earth, in fact, shall not be remembered nor come into mind. Everything will be gloriously new. Sorrow will cease, children will not die in infancy, homes will be built, and fruit trees and gardens planted and enjoyed. But so it seems like with all those things, no more death and stuff like that, but also the earth itself. If you've watched the Marvel movies, I know they can be horrible and stuff. I don't go to the extreme where I don't watch any movies, and I think that some of them are okay. You have bad in all movies. But one thing that the Marvel movies do pretty well, I think, is their design of like these alien worlds, which is just beautiful. They do a really good job. If you've watched Infinity War or Endgame and some of the other ones too, they designed some pretty beautiful places And who knows what this world is going to look like. It may be drastically different from what it looks like right now. I don't know, but what I do know is it's going to have its paradisical glory. And that sounds pretty good. Okay, so let's oh yeah, the person brought up Iceland in the volcano, and maybe, this is getting things going with these changes that are going to take place in the earth. So far, I mean, I'm recording this on Thursday night. So far, the volcano hasn't erupted, and I still don't see anything to suggest that it's going to be like a massive, eruption that's going to change the earth. Although there is a lot of attention on it. So I don't know. But as of right now, it has not erupted. We'll just have to keep our eyes on it. Here's the article that was sent. A newly formed supercontinent will be inhospitable for humans. So, okay, so why? Why is that? Around 299 million years ago, supposedly, Pangaea existed as supercontinent before breaking apart 100 million years ago. Now the continents are due to reconnect in another 200 to 300 million years, and it's going to mean mass extinction for mammals. A new study published by Nature Geoscience suggests that as this new supercontinent forms a hotter sun in absence of ocean coastline, and increased volcanic carbon dioxide emissions means that temperatures will skyrocket. Well, okay, so the only thing that may affect the millennial Earth is this ocean coastline. I'm not so sure that we'd have to worry so much about volcanic carbon dioxide emissions or a hotter sun, although maybe. I would not be surprised if things get hotter, whether it's because of the sun or because of the sun, Jesus Christ, or just the nature of the planet changing. But anyway, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Computer modeling efforts such as PaleoMap can predict how the continents might converge. In order to form Pangaea Ultima, Africa would rotate into the coast of North America, and Eurasia would rotate clockwise and converge. Okay. Most land masses will be far from an ocean, and the supercontinent's interior will be around 50 degrees Celsius and 65 degrees Celsius, which in Fahrenheit, that would be between 122 degrees. So normally what it's like in Arizona. I'm just kidding, kind of. 122 degrees to 149 degrees. Okay, all right. Too hot for most plants. So if plants aren't going to live there, then mammals and other wildlife wouldn't be able to live there either. While some habitable terrain may exist, competition between surviving species will be fierce. So I don't know. Again, it's going to be a paradisical world. We don't know exactly what that entails. Maybe the changes that come upon animal and plant life, maybe it will survive under those circumstances. It doesn't really explain how they get these numbers, 50 to 65 degrees Celsius. Because later in the article, it talks about, and in addition, the sun's going to, emit more energy. So that's going to heat it. So this number is without, factoring in the sun. And I don't think it's factoring in the volcanic eruptions either, the way that the article reads. But either way, like I've said many times before, I wouldn't be surprised if the Earth is actually getting hotter, if it's hot when there's a supercontinent. In that's one of the reasons why our bodies are going to change, and why it's going to become a inhospitable place for those that aren't changed. And we know that those that are wicked, the Celestials, they're going to be burned off the face of the earth. It does seem that that's going to be due to Christ's glory. We've done a few videos talking about that. That seems to be why that happens. But I wouldn't be surprised if the world does get hotter. So it's an interesting article, interesting to think about. I wanted to maybe explore this a little bit more. I went to the Scripture Citation Index, which seems to be fixed now. For like the last 24 hours, it's been like messed up, but it looks like they worked out whatever bugs were messing it up. I did a search for Paradisical because I wanted to see if there were any conference talks that, gave any interesting tidbits about the earth changing. And no, not really. But I did find something interesting as far as who has talked about it or who has used this word, paradisical. So you can see here in all general conferences going back to 1942, this word only comes up 21 times, which I personally would have thought it would have come up more, but it didn't. 21 times since 1942. And guess what? There are some people that use it multiple times. So the most recent mention was by D. Todd Christofferson of the Quorum of the 12 in 2019. In 2015, it was Elder Holland. And then before that, President Nelson, when he was in the Quorum of the 12, 2000, 1996, 1993, 1990. And yeah, so those 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you do the math, that's about 1/5. About 1/5 of all the times that paradisical has been brought up in General Conference, 1/5 of those times approximately was by President Nelson. Now, I don't know, but let me tell you something. As I've been doing this channel, and as I've searched many different things on the Scripture Citation Index, you keep seeing the same names pop up. Okay? Back in olden times, during the Journal of Discourses, it was primarily Orson Pratt. He liked to talk about a lot of these things. Sometimes Brigham Young. Okay? In more recent times, Bruce R. McConkie, Neal A. Maxwell comes up semi-frequently. But especially when it comes to the Second Coming, President Nelson comes up. And it's not just within the last 6-7 years since he became president of the church. It was like before that time. It seems as though his entire time as a general authority, he has been thinking about the Second Coming, which shouldn't really be a surprise. I'm sure that each prophet has been prepared and taught in his own way during his lifetime for certain things. And so it's interesting to consider that for President Nelson, maybe that thing is the Second Coming. And there's plenty of reason to believe that if you've been watching my channel. And this is just the latest bit of evidence, because if he's the president of the Second Coming, he's going to be seeing these changes take place on the earth and in the heavens. He's going to see the paradisical earth. So, but like I said, I didn't really see anything to really pick out of these general conference talks. And so now I want to move on to The Millennial Messiah by Bruce R. McConkie. And he actually has a lot to say about the new heaven and new earth. So I want to read some of this. Okay. The salvation of the earth. We are approaching the day when there will be a new heaven and a new earth. By earth, we mean this planet, this orb, this abiding place for mortal men. Oh, and by the way, that language right there, that makes me think about how in the Give Thanks video by President Nelson, November of 2020, he used a very interesting phrase where he said, we, the passengers on planet Earth. And some people poked fun at that, but I just thought that was really interesting that he would word it like that. Maybe he knows more about this planet and just kind of the proper perspective of it than we do. Anyway, continuing. We mean the lands and the seas, the ground whereon we walk, the pleasant valleys and towering mountains. We mean the great rivers and small streams, the Edenic gardens and the desert wastelands. We mean all of the places where the soles of our feet have trod. By heaven, we mean the atmospheric heavens, the layers of air and moisture that surround the earth, the clouds of heaven, and the free-moving breezes. We mean the life-giving breath that is breathed into the nostrils of living creatures. We mean the blue skies and the rainbow-hued panoramas of color that attend the rising and setting sun. And when we say the heavens and the earth shall be made new, we have in mind changes so dramatic and alterations of such giant proportion that things as they are now will scarcely be remembered or brought to mind. Now, we just read that out of Isaiah, so that's not just Bruce R. McConkie. That's coming from Isaiah. I don't know if there's anywhere else in the scriptures that brings up that idea. So I'm not too worried. Whatever it ends up looking like, I think it's going to be way better than what we currently have. Possibly much more beautiful. Who knows? But I'm excited. I hope you are too. In order to understand the doctrine of a new heaven and a new earth, we must have an awareness of the old heaven and the old earth. We must know that they were not always in their present state, and that their eventual destiny is to be the home and abiding place of exalted beings. We must know that the earth itself is subject to eternal law and is in process of gaining its salvation, which is kind of a weird concept. It's a planet, but okay. Truly it is written that the earth must needs be sanctified from all unrighteousness, that it may be prepared for the celestial glory. For after it hath fulfilled the measure of its creation, it shall be crowned with glory, even with the presence of God the Father. And also, the earth abideth the law of a celestial kingdom, for it filleth the measure of its creation, and transgresseth not the law. Which, by the way, implies that maybe there's other planets that don't obey the law. I don't know. Wherefore it shall be sanctified, yea, notwithstanding it shall die, it shall be quickened again, and shall abide the power by which it is quickened, and the righteous shall inherit it. As to the plan of salvation for men, it includes successive phases of existence and requires certain acts on the part of the candidates for salvation. Men were born as the spirit children of God. The first man, Adam, was placed on the earth in an Edenic or paradisical or terrestrial state. Okay? Keep this in mind. Terrestrial state. I feel like there's some people that don't quite understand this concept. Not a terrestrial glory, not a glory, terrestrial state. And right now, we're in a telestial state, not a telestial glory. That's way better than what we have right now. We're in a telestial state. Okay. In which there was neither procreation nor death. Then came the fall, which brought mortality with its consequent procreation and death. And all men are now in a mortal, a fallen, or a telestial state. Those who live on earth during the millennium will gain a terrestrial state in which there will be no death in the sense of separation of body and spirit, although they will continue to have children. So not like the difference between this and before the fall is that we will be able to have children in the millennium, even though we're once again in a terrestrial state. To gain salvation, men must be baptized in water and of the Spirit. They must obey a celestial law, and they must die and rise again in immortality. The ultimate destiny of saved beings is to dwell in the celestial kingdom. As to the plan of salvation for the earth, it also calls for successive phases of existence and for whatever else is involved for the earth to abide the law and fill the full measure of its creation. This earth was first created as a spirit planet, which that's an interesting idea. Then came the Edenic or paradisiacal or terrestrial creation, during which period all forms of life were placed on its surface, in its waters, or in the atmospheric heavens that surround it. Next came the fall of man, the fall of all forms of life, and the fall of the earth. The fallen earth became a telestial sphere, which it now is. In the coming millennial day, it will be renewed and receive again its paradisiacal glory. It will thus return to its terrestrial or Edenic state. And its final destiny is to become a celestial globe and shine like the sun in the firmament. I'm not going to look it up right now, but we saw what Brigham Young said about this. And I know it sounds crazy, but I really do think that we don't understand astronomy. I trust astronomy and science's current understand. Like they've done the best that they can with the instruments that they have, but I think that there are like much deeper levels than what we're able to detect with our instruments when it comes to these celestial bodies. To us, the sun looks like essentially an ongoing nuclear reaction through nuclear fusion. And so it's just like a explosion taking place in space. But I really feel like, based on the words of prophets, that if we saw how things as they really are, there's probably things that we can't observe. He essentially said that the sun is a celestial world and that there's life there. And I think when he says life, I think he's referring to like resurrected beings, or those that are able to live in a world like that. Not that we can see with our natural eyes. That's just what I think, and it's based on statements like this. But anyway, and its final destiny is to become a celestial globe and shine like the sun in the firmament. In the process of abiding a celestial law, the earth was baptized by immersion in the days of Noah, and it will be baptized by fire at the second coming. This old earth is also destined to die and to be resurrected in the day of quickening. During the millennium, it will, in effect, be in a translated state, so not resurrected at that point, translated state, which, as pertaining to men, is the state Enoch and his people and some others attained. Thus, the earth was first a spirit planet and then a terrestrial globe. It is now a telestial earth. During the millennium, it will become terrestrial again. And finally, it will become a celestial earth. With an awareness of all this, we are ready to consider the new heaven and new earth that is soon to be. The Paradisical Earth. We believe it is a formal, a canonized pronouncement that the earth will be renewed and receive its paradisical glory. Article of Faith 10. All things when first created, all things when first created, the earth and all forms of life were paradisical in nature and were pronounced by their creator as very good. There was no sin, no sorrow, no death in that day. And the great creator blessed the earth and all things on its face. Then came the fall, and the earth which God had blessed was cursed. Cursed be the ground for thy sake, he said to Adam. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. To Cain the Lord said, when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. And later, with reference to all men, the divine account says, and God cursed the earth with a sore curse, and was angry with the wicked, with all the sons of men whom he made. The curse now prevails. It is in full operation. It will continue so to be until the millennial day. Which, that's exciting, isn't it? No more the curse, no more thistles and thorns and whatever else that all entails. The earth and all things that remain after the day of burning will return to a paradisical state, a state in which all things will be blessed and prospered as they were in the primeval day. A thing cannot be renewed unless it was new in the first instance. The earth was paradisical once, and it will become so again. Enoch sought to learn from the Lord when the curse would be removed and when the earth would be blessed again. After he and his city had been translated, Enoch looked upon the earth, and he heard a voice from the bowels thereof saying, Woe, woe is me, the mother of men. I am pained, I am weary, because of the wickedness of my children. When shall I rest and be cleansed from the filthiness which has gone forth out of me? When will my Creator sanctify me, that I may rest, and righteousness for a season abide upon my face? How graphic and wondrous is this way of teaching, to let the very earth itself cry out for rest and blessings. And when Enoch heard the earth mourn, he wept and cried unto the Lord, saying, O Lord, wilt thou not have compassion upon the earth? Wilt thou not bless the children of Noah? And the Lord did then bless the earth to this extent. He decreed that life on its face should never again be destroyed by a flood. But the basic question remained unanswered. And so And so Enoch yet cried unto the Lord, saying, When the Son of Man cometh in the flesh, shall the earth rest? I pray thee, show me these things. He then saw the crucifixion, the convulsions of nature that attended it, the opening of the prison doors, the reserving of the wicked in chains of darkness until the judgment of the great day. And again, Enoch wept and cried unto the Lord, saying, When shall the earth rest? And Enoch beheld the Son of Man ascend up unto the Father, and he called unto the Lord, saying, Wilt thou not come again upon the earth? I ask thee if thou wilt not come again on the earth. How great were the pleadings of this holy prophet to know what would be in the last days. And the Lord said unto Enoch, As I live, so will I come in the last days, in the days of wickedness and vengeance. And the day shall come that the earth shall rest, but before that day the heavens shall be darkened, and a veil of darkness shall cover the earth, and the heavens shall shake, and also the earth, and great tribulations shall be among the children of men. But my people will I preserve. Okay, here it is in the scriptures. But my people will I preserve. So if you're looking for peace, safety, refuge, protection, be the Lord's people. Keep the commandments, be on the covenant path. All right, continuing. Then the Lord told Enoch of the restoration of the gospel, the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, the building of the New Jerusalem, and the return of the original Zion, and gave them the promise that for the space of 1,000 years the earth shall rest. And it came to pass that Enoch saw the day of the coming of the Son of Man in the last days to dwell on the earth in righteousness for the space of 1,000 years. Isaiah speaks of the latter-day glory and triumph of Israel as a people, of their return from captivity, of the dominion they will have over the nations that oppress them, and of the fall of Babylon. Then, using the same concept, that of the earth resting in the day of its paradisical glory, he says in majestic simplicity, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. That sounds amazing. They break forth into singing. How pleasing that day will be. As the Lord worked 6 days in the creation and rested the seventh, as men is commanded to labor for 6 days and then rest and worship on the seventh, so the earth itself, after being cursed with the wickedness of her children during 6 long millenniums, shall soon enjoy a Sabbath of rest for the promised 1,000 years. And everyone is going to be happy. The day of Transfiguration. This earth as it is now constituted, in the atmospheric heavens as they now are, both of them in their fallen and telestial state, shall soon cease to be. They shall die. As with men, so with the earth. Death is essential to salvation. A change must take place in the earth. It must go from a lower to a higher state. And by the way, again, this idea of going from a lower to a higher state, I really do think that physically speaking, okay, when you think about temperature, right, you have atoms that are at a lower state. The electrons are going slower when it's cold. But when there's more energy, when the electrons are going faster around the nucleus of the atom, it's like a higher state, right? So it would make sense to me that things would actually get hotter as we go from a lower to a higher state. Sorry, I'm still on that. All right, continuing. It is now a telestial state and must be transformed into one that is terrestrial before it eventually receives its final celestial glory, which is to shine like the sun, which that sounds really hot. All this is set forth in the Holy Word. The inspired psalmist, for instance, in extolling the greatness of God, says, O my God, thy years are throughout all generations. Of old hast thou laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of thy hands. They shall perish, but thou shalt endure. Yea, all of them shall wax old like a garment. As a vesture shalt thou change them, and they shall be changed. But thou art the same, and thy years shall have no end. The earth shall wax old, it shall perish, it shall be changed. As with so many of the mysteries of the kingdom, Isaiah leaves us a plain and precious witness of the change that is to be on the earth. To him, the Lord said, Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like a smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they shall dwell therein, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. It is the same passage as that delivered by the psalmist. The heavens and the earth being old and having served their purpose, where men are concerned, shall die. The atmospheric heavens, as they now are, shall cease to be. And so also will it be with the earth. They shall be changed. The windows from on high are open, and the fountains of the earth do shake. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean, dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. Prophets always use the best language at their command to describe what the Lord wants them to say. These words of Isaiah are to be interpreted as meaning exactly what they say. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. When the Lord comes and the telestial earth ceases to be, when it dies its appointed death, it will not rise again in its old, fallen, and degenerate state. The day will then have arrived that is referred to in the writings of Isaiah in these words. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, saith the Lord, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. There's that scripture again. We're not going to remember how things were. So it must be pretty incredible. So glorious shall the new earth be that men will no longer concern themselves with what once was. I'm excited to see that. Moroni has inserted into his digest of the writings of Ether these words. The earth shall pass away, and there shall be a new heaven and a new earth, and they shall be like unto the old, save the old have passed away, and all things have become new. Life will go on during the millennium. The earth as a sphere will still be here, and the new earth will be patterned after the old one in the same sense that translated beings are patterned after the mortal men they once were. They are the same persons, but their nature and powers and faculties are so changed that their whole way of life is new. So shall it be as between our present earth and the new earth that is to be. Now, really quick, just remember, I don't know, I've just kind of skimmed through this. I don't know if he's going to mention it, but our translated beings, or our translated bodies, we're not going to have blood anymore. He talks about it somewhere here in Millennial Messiah. He talks about the fact that because us and animals are not going to have blood, there's not going to be any more eating of animals and shedding their blood. And of course, we're not going to have any disease. It sounds like we're going to be like almost changed into like superhumans of some kind. But there's not a whole lot of details of what that entails. But it's going to be pretty dramatic. And so if it's going to be that dramatic with us, then I can only imagine what it's going to be like with the earth. I don't know. It sounds pretty good. Peter calls this day when there will be a new heaven and a new earth, this day when the earth shall wax old and die, and in which the heavens shall vanish away like smoke. This day in which things on earth will be changed as men change the vestures that clothe them. This day in which the earth will be broken down and dissolved and moved exceedingly. This day in which the earth will be renewed and receive its paradisical glory and become again as it originally was in the day of the Garden of Eden. Peter calls this day the times of refreshing that shall come from the presence of the Lord when he shall send Jesus Christ, which before was preached unto the Jews. It will be the day of change needed to make the earth a fit habitation for its true king and the other resurrected beings who will live and reign with him for the appointed 1,000 years. And well might Peter so speak. He was one of the three in the meridian of time. Sorry, I had to borrow this again. Looks like I'm going to have to zoom in again. He was one of the three in the meridian of time, the other two being James and John, who saw in vision the whole glorious renewal of the earth. Alluding to what they saw on the Mount of Transfiguration, our revealed word says, He that endureth in faith and doeth my will the same shall overcome, and shall receive an inheritance upon the earth when the day of transfiguration shall come, when the earth shall be transfigured, even according to the pattern which was shown unto mine apostles upon the mount, of which account the fullness ye have not yet received. Which I guess that implies that we will receive it at some point, but then I guess at that point we'll be seeing it with our own eyes, unless I'm mistaken. The new heaven and new earth, the paradisical earth, the renewed earth, the refreshed earth, the transfigured earth, the millennial earth, all these are one in the same. How blessed the earth will be in that day. Okay, the transfigured earth. What will the transfigured earth be like? Unto what shall we compare it? And how shall we find words to describe the glory and beauty of all things in that day? Providentially, the prophetic word gives us glimpses of the future. Using the best language at their command, our inspired forerunners have recorded some of the visions vouchsafed to them relative to the new heaven and the new earth, and they have written down some of the revelations they received about the wonders of the millennium. In their accounts, we read of mountains becoming plains. Okay, so it does seem, anonymous and anybody else wondering, it does seem like it is actually going to be like this, that it's going to be plains. It's what it sounds like. According to Bruce R. McConkie. And I haven't seen anybody that contradicts this either, so I really do think this is what's going to happen. In their accounts, we read of mountains becoming plains, of valleys ceasing to be, and of the very land masses of the earth uniting into one grand continent. We read of deserts becoming gardens, and of the whole earth yielding her fruit, as in Eden of old. The prophetic word, designed as it is to encourage us to prepare to abide the day, is fascinating to the extreme. And it is to this word that we now turn as we seek to weave into the eternal tapestry of the second coming those threads which will picture the new heaven and the new earth that are to be. Then, in later chapters, we shall speak of the kind of life men and all created things shall live on their newly made paradisical planet. Our course is charted for us with reference to these coming events by this divine word. Be not deceived, but continue in steadfastness, looking forth for the heavens to be shaken and the earth to tremble and to reel to and fro as a drunken man, and for the valleys to be exalted, and for the mountains to be made low, and for the rough places to become smooth. In all this, when the angels shall sound his trumpet. That's from D&C 4923. And be it noted, this divine exhortation has the effect of endorsing and approving what the ancient prophets have said about the changes in the earth that will occur as the millennial day dawns. One of the plainest and most oft-repeated statements about the ushering in of the millennium is the promise of a great shaking of the earth, of earthquakes that are everywhere at one. Of earthquakes that are everywhere at one in the same time, and of mountains and valleys and seas and land masses that move. Yet once it is a little while, saith the Lord, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. Christ, the desire of all nations, shall come amid the greatest shaking of the earth and of all things that there has ever been or ever will be in the entire history of this planet. Everything on earth, the historical events then in progress, the beasts and all forms of life, and the inanimate objects that do not act for themselves, everything on earth will be affected by the great shaking. For instance, John tells us that in the midst of Armageddon, there will be a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake and so great. Through Ezekiel, the Lord said of that same day, surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Again, this is something that I've tried to understand, determine, are all structures worldwide going to be destroyed? I tend not to think so, but this makes it seem like yes, every wall shall fall to the ground. Of course, that could just be an expression of great destruction. But the one thing that I feel pretty sure about is that the temples are meant to last. Again, think about the Salt Lake Temple right now. It's receiving this like big renovation, and one big focus of that renovation is to help it survive an earthquake. And for all I know, maybe this very earthquake that we're talking about right here. So that's something that's not too clear to me. I feel like there has to be enough that survives to where we're not just like completely starting from ground zero when it comes to our homes, but I don't know. I don't know. If I knew, then I would show you, but I haven't found anything that really clarifies it. But right here, Ezekiel, every wall shall fall to the ground. Okay. And the Lord shall come, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains. Yea, ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. Again, for the 1,000,000th time, I can't believe this even happened. Turkey, earthquake, olive grove. What seems to be, in my mind, a foreshadowing of what we just read. There was a cleaving in twain of a Mount of Olives in Turkey earlier this year. And, 2024, everything that's going on right now, especially as I'm thinking about President Nelson, he's in his 100th year of life. He has given 40 general conference talks, if you don't count the Hosanna Shout instructions. Okay, we're at 40. What were the other ones? Oh, yeah, he's going to be, after January 14th of next year, he's going to be in his 7th year as president of the church. 7, okay? 7, 40, 100th year of life. Which is potentially the year. It may not be once you turn 100. It may be during your 100th year that you're changed in the twinkling of an eye. And then on top of that, it's going to be 40 years in April, right? Yeah, in April of next year. He'll have been an apostle for 40 years. All these numbers are like lining up for next year. In this year, as though it's like a 1-year warning, potentially, there was a Mount of Olives that was cleaved in twain in Turkey. Not really that far, like relatively close to Israel. In fact, let me turn on all my events. And it was this red one right here. Okay, right here. Here's Jerusalem down here in this area, and here's where that Mount of Olives in Turkey was split into two by an earthquake. I would not take that lightly. I'll leave the link for it in the description below if you want to look at that article. The prophetic word in Joel attests that at the second coming, the heavens and the earth shall shake. And our latter-day revelation says, the everlasting hills shall tremble. We've already quoted the words of Isaiah that says, the earth will be dissolved. The psalmist says the same thing. The earth and all the inhabitants thereof are dissolved. Peter picks up this same theme and explains how it shall come to pass. The day of the Lord will come, he says, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also, and the works that are therein, shall be burned up. Well, there you go. The works that are therein. Maybe that includes our houses. I don't know. This we have heretofore considered in other connections, but now note particularly what will happen to the earth. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, Peter continues, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversion and godliness, looking for the hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. These things, he says, shall come to pass in the day when there are new heavens and a new earth. Being aware thus that the heavens and the earth, as they now are, shall be dissolved, and that the very elements shall melt with fervent heat, we catch a new vision of what is meant by the prophetic word that the mountains shall melt at the second coming. Nahum says, the mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world and all that dwell therein. For behold, the Lord cometh forth out of his place, and will come down and tread upon the high places of the earth, and the mountains shall be molten under him, and the valleys shall be cleft as wax before the fire, in the waters that are poured down a steep place. Our revelation, echoing the prayer found in chapter 64 of Isaiah, says that the servants of God in the last days will call upon the name of the Lord day and night in these words. Oh, that thou wouldst rend the heavens, that thou wouldst come down, that the mountains might flow down at thy presence. They are answered that the presence of the Lord shall be as the melting fire that burneth, and as the fire which causeth the waters to boil. Which is kind of interesting because this year is when we had that, I'd have to check on it, see if they've made it official, but off the coast of Florida, it was this year that they had 101 degree temperatures in the ocean or the sea around Florida. Not boiling, but it's pretty warm. Anyway, in their prayers, the saints will say, yea, when thou comest down and the mountains flow down at thy presence, thou shalt meet him who rejoiceth and worketh righteousness, who remembereth thee in thy ways. And so Isaiah says, prepare ye the way of the Lord, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. And so Zechariah says, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth, and the land shall be turned as a plain. See, right there, the land shall be turned as a plain. So like a plain, like Kansas. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction. When the Lord first created this earth, as appears from the revealed account, all the land masses were in one place, and all of the great waters in another. Continents and islands as we now know them did not exist. So that's including islands. And I, God, said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and it was so. And I, God, said, let there be dry land, and it was so. And I, God, called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called I the sea. And I, God, saw that all things which I had made were good. That's from Moses 2, verses 9 through 10. Continents and islands, each in their several positions, came into being later. We suppose in large measure as part of the universal flood and the changes that then wrought upon the earth. The account in Genesis says the earth was divided in the days of Peleg, in Genesis 10, verse 25, meaning, as we suppose, that the division into continents and islands was completed in his day. Peleg was, in fact, the fifth generation from Noah, and his name means division. In any event, there now are continents and islands, which was not always the case. Now, when the Lord stands upon all of it, and when he utters his voice from Zion and from Jerusalem, it shall be heard among all people. And it shall be a voice as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, which shall break down the mountains, and the valley shall not be found. He shall command the great deep, and it shall be driven back into the north countries, and the islands shall become one land. In the land of Jerusalem, the Holy Land, in the land of Zion, America, shall be turned back into their own place, and the earth shall be like as it was in the days before it was divided. And the Lord, even the Savior, shall stand in the midst of his people and shall reign over all flesh. It is an interesting speculative enterprise to look at a map or globe of the world and to wonder how, with modest adjustments involving the rising and sinking of various areas of the earth, the continents and islands might fit back together again. There is much to indicate that they once were joined and would easily fit back in their former positions. So hopefully you've already talked about this in school or just realized this yourself. But yeah, you can see how South America looks like it fits right here into Africa. It matches up almost perfectly. Now we obviously learn about tectonic plates in earth sciences. I have this Wikipedia article pulled up that has this graphic. And you might think, well, okay, so what's going to happen? How's it all going to come together? And it seems like it's going to happen all in a day or in a very short period of time. Who the heck knows? But, Bruce R. McConkie was just talking about the flood. The flood was 40 days and 40 nights, but then he talks about the fifth generation, Peleg. So I don't understand. I don't know if he's saying from the flood until Peleg, that amount of time is how long it took for them to separate into what they now are. I don't know. If you understood that better than I did, put it in the comments below. But maybe it's the case that these tectonic plates, maybe there's some process that we don't understand right now that science doesn't know about where these plate boundaries, maybe they kind of cave in to the earth. When this happens, when this event happens, maybe instead of going under each other, one underneath another one, maybe there's going to be some kind of collapse where they both go down in toward the earth. And so as they go into the earth, the surface or what's now the land masses come together, kind of like a sheet. If you took a sheet and then you underneath it, you pulled it down and then the other parts come together where you're pulling it down. Maybe that's going to be kind of how it happens. I don't know, but in how that's going to work with all the islands of the sea, because you have Hawaii all the way in the heck over here. That's not, unless I don't know how it would work with the islands, but in some kind of way, it seems like it's going to happen, and we'll just have to see. Maybe with the moving of the oceans, maybe not everything's going to come together perfectly the way that we envision it now. Maybe some of it's going to be due to drainage of the oceans, because you have all these islands over here in Southeast Asia, in Oceania. And so, excuse me, maybe the water is going to drain. It's going to go wherever it's going to go into the North countries. And so you'll have land that up until that point was underwater, but now it's going to connect some of these islands and stuff like that. Maybe there'll be some of that takes place. Again, thinking about mountains and valleys going in the opposite direction, maybe that's going to have a lot to do with what's going on under the ocean with ridges, underwater ridges and stuff that'll come up. And so, yeah, it's probably going to be, in short, it's probably going to be pretty wild. I think we could wrap it up with that. It's probably going to be, it's probably going to be pretty wild. Knowing as we do from Latter-day Revelation that the islands and continents were once joined in one landmass and will yet again be joined, we find new meaning in allusions and comments found in the ancient scriptures. As part of a description of the second coming, John tells us, "And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. In connection with the greatest earthquake of the ages," John says, "and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found." Also, in a second coming setting, John speaks of the voice of the Lord as the voice of many waters and as the voice of a great thunder. This is the identical language used by the Lord in telling Joseph Smith that the mountains and the valleys shall not be found, that the great deep, apparently the Atlantic Ocean, will be driven back into the north countries, and the islands shall become one land. Okay, so the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so So all this, in some kind of way, maybe with these things coming together, it'll go up north, and Russia will come like this way, in North America that way, and then most of the water will come up here, I guess. Okay. The voice of many waters and of a great thunder could well be the thunderous surging of a whole ocean moving half an Earth's distance from where it now is. That sounds like a pretty frightening event. And all this gives deep meaning to John's account, which says, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea." The apparent meaning of this is that the sea or ocean that separates the continents will cease to be, for their great land masses will be joined together again. Isaiah, speaking of Zion and Jerusalem in a second coming setting, in an apparent reference to the joining of the continents and using the prophetic imagery for which he has such great renown, says, "Thy land shall be married." In Isaiah 62:4, "Thy land shall be married." That's interesting. Also, in a setting relative to the millennium, in the gathering of Israel, Isaiah says, "There shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left." That is, those who are left because they have abided the day of our Lord's coming shall find a highway to lead them to their apparent gathering places. It shall then be, Isaiah says, like it was to Israel in the day that they came up out of the land of Egypt. As the Lord provided a highway through the Red Sea for his people anciently, as they traveled to their promised land, so will he provide a way for them to travel in the latter days. Our latter-day revelation, after stating that the great deep shall be driven back into the north countries and that the continents shall become one land, states that they who are in the north countries, meaning the 10 tribes, shall return, and an highway shall be cast up in the midst of the great deep for them. Would we go too far astray if we were to suggest that the highway is created by the joined land masses, in that as ancient Israel found a dry path through the Red Sea, so latter-day Israel will find a dry path where the Atlantic Ocean once was? It is at least a thought to ponder, for surely we are expected to seek for interpretations relative to all that has been revealed concerning the Lord and his coming. After our Lord comes and the new heaven and the earth are a reality, then the earth will bring forth bounteously to support the billions of our Father's children who shall soon find lodgment on its surface. We do not know what changes will cause this to be. Our knowledge is limited to a few slivers of revealed truth here and there through the canonized word. Our revealed description of the millennial return of Israel says, "They shall smite the rocks, and the ice shall flow down at their presence. And in the barren deserts there shall come forth pools of living water, and the parched ground shall no longer be a thirsty land." If the great ice masses shall flow down before them, it presupposes worldwide climactic changes. And if the deserts are freely watered, conditions will be far from what they now are. It could be, we do not know, we can only speculate. It could be that now this part's interesting. It could be that the axis of the earth will become upright and no longer have the 23.5-degree tilt that causes seasons. Now, we covered an article a while ago called, "The Tilt of the Earth Changed." Yeah, here we go. Space.com. Humans are pumping out so much groundwater that it's changing Earth's tilt. Now, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. That kind of sounds ridiculous to me. But it would be so infuriating, I think, for a lot of people to find out that if these people know better, if they know that it's not human-caused climate change, it's not human-caused changing to the Earth's tilt, how evil is it if Satan is putting into the minds of these people that it's our fault that these things are happening, when in reality, it's not. It's the Earth getting ready to become a paradisical world. What if we find out that that's the case and that's what all these things are? So Satan, to cover it up, to shift the blame, he puts it on you and me, and we now need to have new restrictions. So devious. But anyway, space.com, humans are pumping out so much groundwater that it's changing Earth's tilt. Earth's tilt has changed by 31.5 inches. So, okay, not very much. 80 centimeters between 1993 and 2010 because of the amount of groundwater humans have pumped from the planet's interior. So that's interesting. It's not a whole lot, but the tilt is changing, or at least it has changed, and it seems like maybe it's continuing to change. Earth's rotation shorter. I can't remember how. Oh, faster. This is another article that we covered. The Earth is spinning faster than ever, and it's making our days ... shorter. This is August 4th of last year. Yeah, the shortest date ever recorded was June 29th of last year. And we've covered that too. So there's weird things going on with the Earth. Okay. Don't know if it's related to the millennium or not, but would not be surprised. Let's go back to this. Let's see how we're doing on time. Might have to cut this short. We're hitting the hour mark right now. So anyway, it could be that the axis of the Earth will become upright and no longer have the 23.5 degree tilt that causes seasons. It could be, we do not know, that such was the case in the beginning, which might account for the great glacial ages about which scientists speculate. The first mention in the scriptures of seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, as we know them, is found after the flood of Noah, Genesis 8:22. At this point, it is wise to state that there is much more that we do not know than that which is known about many things that were anciently and that will be again. The change in the earth itself is described in Isaiah on this wise. Thorns and briars shall prevail in the land until the Spirit be poured upon us from on high, and the wilderness be a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest. Then righteousness will prevail, and my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation, and in sure dwellings, and in quiet resting places, saith the Lord. I think I'm probably... Oh, okay. Well, that's basically the end anyway. Yeah, that's basically the end. It ends with this. So shall it be on the transfigured earth. So I guess the takeaways here are I don't think we need to worry about mountains and canyons and valleys and stuff like that, because whatever the earth is going to look like, even if it's just a plain, somehow or another, we're not even going to think about how things were before. It's going to be that much better. The land masses are going to come together. It could, there's all sorts of things to consider and think about, but the land masses are going to come together. The tilt of the earth may change, maybe even the rotation, and who knows what else. There's going to be a great earthquake, and it seems like it's going to be that earthquake that causes these changes. Not exactly sure what will and won't survive after the earthquake. I think it's reasonable to assume that all the temples will. I find it hard to believe that we would put this much work into building temples only for all of them to be destroyed, which it doesn't seem to be the case. We've looked up different commentaries from people, including Brigham Young, and also recent ones. I can't remember who, maybe President Nelson himself, who talked about both the Salt Lake Temple and Pioneer era temples being built and also being renovated to survive through the millennium. So I feel like if they're going to survive, I don't think that they're going to have like protective bubbles just for the temples. I think that there's probably going to be a lot that still survives, but there's going to be great changes. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it's something to look forward to. It's not something to be fearful of. And it could be really soon, especially after we just received this sign in Turkey, not too far away from Israel, a Mount of Olives that has cleaved in twain, literally. And that time could be upon us pretty soon when we see it happening on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. But okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.